This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Los Angeles today, just outside of Culver City, and we are joined by a council member of that beautiful city. And I want to speak with you about another beautiful city. It's known as Capo d'Orlando. It is in Italy on the island of Sicily.
Correct.
Why am I asking you about this city, sir?
Because we're looking for it to become our 5th sister city, along with, we currently have 4 sister cities, one in Kaizuka, Japan, Iksan, South Korea, Uruapan, Mexico, and Lethbridge, Canada. And we're looking to add Capo d'Orlando, Sicily, to our sister city.
Before we talk about your recent trip, I want to talk about the Sister City movement. I've learned a bit about it on our show. I think it's been around since President Eisenhower.
Yes, correct.
The individual who launched it has been very successful for lots of different cities. Give me your sense of why you believe the Sister City movement has been of benefit.
Well, you know, there's really 2 aspects to it. In the larger cities, they look at it for economic development, trade issues, but for a smaller city, it's more about cultural exchange.
Okay.
It's being able to expose our residents, and particularly our students, to a different culture and lifestyle, and in return for which they come and visit us and they learn a lot about American lifestyle. So that's very helpful for, you know, and that's, I think, the basis upon which the whole Sister City movement was founded.
But I must say, I have to presume for these cities, it's quite a boon to be affiliated with Culver City, given Sony Pictures, Columbia is literally in your city limits. You have, what's the studio next to Columbia?
You're talking about the Culver Studios.
Yeah, Culver Studios, which is historic. Yeah. You have the hotel where the Wizard of Oz, a lot of the...
And interestingly enough, we found that they have a very active arts and design and interest in film and all of that. So one of the...
This is Capo d'Orlando. Okay, so let's go to Capo d'Orlando. You were just there.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, it's great. One of the things that we learned, there was a delegation of the mayor and the vice mayor, myself, and members of the Sister City Committee, is that, at least in Sicily, they express friendship through food. So they treated us great. We had one lunch, and share some pictures with you of, there were 7 courses, 2.5 hours for lunch, and you know, it was, and then when we get done with lunch, we go walk somewhere and go into a gelato shop.
Of course, it is Italy.
To have it. So it was great hospitality,
but now,
friendly
how did you
people.
Connect with that particular city?
Actually, one of our members of our Sister City Committee had lived in that or had relatives from that. And that's a lot of times how we develop these. Our relationship with Lethbridge, Canada came about through one of our members' wife had grown up in Lethbridge and had been a figure skater. And so, yeah, that's kind of how they developed.
And in Mexico, what's our city?
Uruapan.
Where is that?
It's in the central part of Mexico, and that's one of our longest standing ones. Unfortunately, we've not been able to have the communication because it's right in the center of all the drug cartel problems.
So what's the next step? I don't believe that you have officially become sister cities, but you're on your way.
Each city council would approve. We would develop a memorandum of understanding and sort of detail what is this relationship going to look like, what kind of exchanges are we going to do, and it would be a memorandum of understanding, and then we would file that with the International Sister City Committee after a vote from each of our city
councils. Good luck.
Councils.
It sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I want to talk about another element that is on the minds of Culver City, and that is on plastics, specifically what's known as polystyrene.
Correct.
What I know of polystyrene, you know when you get takeout and you get those clamshell cases, that's polystyrene.
Right, that's called enhanced polystyrene, or we call it, you know, styrofoam. But there's also a harder polystyrene, which is a clear plastic. It could come in also as a clamshell. It could come in drink cups. It can come in straws or utensils.
Now, I believe that the state was looking at banning polystyrene. I believe that bill may have stalled. I'm not sure.
I think so.
I feel as if maybe 100 cities or so.
Yeah, I think we're 108. We're the 108th city to do it. So we're not the first to do it, obviously, but we're one of the first in Los Angeles County.
So this is done, by the way. What you're describing, you have banned polystyrene.
Right, it'll go into effect. I mean, there's a 6-month period so that people can use up their
Right.
existing stock and whatever. And we're doing a very active education campaign with our takeouts. It applies to restaurants, it applies to hotels that have food services, it applies to convenience stores that have food activities, it applies to some retailers as well that's selling of products. So one of the things that we added in that's maybe more progressive is that when you do go to a takeout,
Right.
the cutlery, which oftentimes again is polystyrene,
Right.
it's on demand, so it's not automatically given. I've got a drawer full of that the plasticware
as do
when
I.
you know.
As do I.
So it's on demand to do that, but it's part of an overall thing that we're doing to enhance our overall environment. The issue that came up, particularly with the styrofoam part, is that those containers break up. They get into Bionah Creek. The marine life eats that, and it's not good for the whole ecosystem.
So let's talk about the shift, though, because like you said, there is a bit of a ramp-up period, but I presume that there are some businesses that have expressed concerns. I don't know about costs personally,
Right.
but look, let's say we get Chinese food. The Chinese food often is in those paper containers.
Those are okay.
Right.
Yeah, those are okay.
And
But
so,
what
what about cost for them?
Well, what we're doing is and that's part of it, we're doing an education program with our restaurants, particularly the takeout restaurants, to be able to show them that there are viable alternatives and cost-effective alternatives and where they can get them. Oftentimes the restaurants will just go to a wholesale place where you get, and they just pull the things off the shelf, or they've got somebody that does the buying for them. And what we're going to try to do is educate them that there are, in fact, lots of alternatives that they can do that are, in fact, cost effective.
So part of the concern, and actually interestingly, part of the reason why there was a focus on the state side is the patchwork of laws.
Correct. It was the same thing that happened with plastic bags in a way too, and that's why all the various grocery stores and those things really were looking for state law because they didn't want to have 400 different ordinances.
Right. What's interesting about the plastics is the state wound up banning the single-use plastic bags, went to a vote to repeal, and the state overwhelmingly rejected the repeal. And so do you have a sense if we do get some statewide momentum on polystyrene, if there would be an attempt to try to repeal it, even though plastics was unsuccessful?
Oh, probably. Yeah. Probably. But we found too that the same manufacturers that are manufacturing the polystyrene products also oftentimes manufacture the alternatives too. So it's not like you're putting the plastic bag people were put out of business in for something else. They just have to shift their priorities.
Okay, so what else is going on? What else?
Well, I just wanted to say I've had the pleasure of working with you over the last 5 years, being part of Local Edition. It's great that this forum is available to me to be able to talk about what's going on in Culver City. It's unique, and I understand you may be moving on, and I just want to wish you well, and I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to get to know you and to be a part of this program.
No, I appreciate that. This has been literally one of the biggest treats I've ever had professionally, and I have so enjoyed meeting you and leaders up and down the state and around the country on Local Edition. And I'm excited for the next chapter. I don't know what that next chapter is, but I know that I intend to stay involved and engaged in the greater Los Angeles area as well as in the state of California, because there are so many exciting things going on in our region and state. And
keep shopping in Culver City, right?
I
know you're right on the border there.
I'm right on the border. I live right outside. But I want to thank you so much, Jim, for
Thank you.
joining us. And I want to thank you, of course, for joining us. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're coming to you from Los Angeles on Local Edition.